Warning, this episode contains descriptions of school violence, grooming, radicalization, and references to self-harm and suicide. Listener discretion is strongly advised. If you or someone you know is struggling, help is available. In the United States, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, which is free, confidential, and available 24/7. I'm Trench Reynolds. I write crime. This one starts like they all do, with a silence too ordinary to notice. A Monday morning, December chill in the air. The kind of day when the clock drips slower than the rain, and you hope the teacher throws on a movie. Instead, someone brought death to school. Her name was Natalie Rupnow, 15. The kind of teenager you forget until it's too late. Worn boots, eyeliner smudged into permanent mourning, and a 1,000-yard stare honed on message boards and bullet casings. She walked into Abundant Life Christian School that morning with a 9mm Glock and something darker. Killed were 42-year-old teacher Aaron West and 14-year-old student Ruby Vergara. 6 others were injured. And then Natalie turned the gun on herself, right there in the study hall. But death wasn't the end of Natalie's story. It was the unveiling of something far more rotten. See, people like to think these things come out of nowhere, that a good girl went bad, cracked under pressure, snapped like a brittle twig in the wind. But Natalie didn't snap. She planned. She mapped, modeled, manifested. Police found a cardboard mock-up of the school, hand-drawn maps, a 6-page manifesto soaked in references to Columbine and Pekka Eric Avanon, the Finnish school shooter she called the one true ideal of the so-called future. She wanted to kill. She hated her parents, called them scum, claimed she manipulated her father, and she did. Jeffrey Rupnow thought he was bonding with his daughter, teaching her how to shoot, taking her to the range, giving her a Glock for Christmas like it was just another toy under the tree. He told police the guns were safe, that they were locked away, that she didn't know the combination. But she did, because he told her, just in case. And even if he hadn't, it wasn't hard to figure out. The code? His social security number backward. Real genius level stuff. She took 2 guns from what he called the fun safe, a Glock 9mm and a .22 Sig Sauer. But only the Glock was used in the shooting. The Sig stayed holstered, like an understudy waiting for its cue. When it was all over, and Natalie lay dead on a classroom floor, Jeffrey Rupnow had more than grief to explain. Now he's facing 2 felony counts for providing a weapon to a minor resulting in death, and 1 count for contributing to her delinquency. They pulled him over in the dark, 3:45 a.m. You can love your kid all you want, but love without caution is still negligence. And this was fatal. But even he didn't act alone. Natalie didn't hatch this plan in solitude. She found company in the shadows, encouragement from strangers, grown men whispering through headphones and chat logs. One lived in California, 20 years old enough to know better, young enough to still crave control. He told Natalie he loved her. Again, she was 15. He shared his bomb recipes, talked tactics, described a fantasy where he attacked a government building and she stood beside him in the smoke. He called it love, but it was grooming, and it was effective. No criminal charges, not yet, but a judge slapped him with a 3-year gun violence restraining order. because even if he never pulled a trigger, he loaded her mind with reasons to. Then came Damian Blade Allen. Yeah, that's his real name. A name that sounds like a cartoon villain with a god complex. And that's exactly what he was. Allen is 22, lives in Florida. In high school, he followed a girl across campus, made groping gestures, referenced Columbine, acted like a predator dipped in theatrics. The charges were dropped. All he had to do was agree to a mental health evaluation and keep his hands off guns. He didn't. In April, police kicked in his door, found 18 firearms, over 12,000 rounds of ammunition, tactical vests, Nazi paraphernalia, even a 3D printed body camera, and a Crown Vic tricked out to look like a squad car. He dressed like a cop, filmed himself like one too. A fantasy, but this fantasy had teeth. And he shared it with Natalie. They called each other soulmates. Not the kind you meet at summer camp, the kind you die with. He said they'd go down together, and she said, correct. He had 7 targets. She wanted to shoot up a black church. This was no internet roleplay. This was a suicide pact made in violence. A blood-soaked ideology wrapped in romantic delusion. Allen now faces charges for making threats, impersonating law enforcement, and using a communication device to facilitate a felony. He's being held without bail, because some fantasies don't get to walk free. But the noise didn't stop there. When the smoke cleared and the names hit the headlines, the vultures came next. Not just the ones with microphones, the ones with usernames and agendas. Natalie had used the name Samantha online, a private alias, a shadow identity in forums and chat threads. Some called that a sign that she was trans. Others didn't bother asking, they just declared it. And from there came the fire. Suddenly, the shooting wasn't about warning signs or access to guns or the adults who failed her. It was about her gender. Commentators spun her identity into a wedge, said this was proof that trans people were violent, dangerous, proof they didn't belong in bathrooms, let alone schools. The local police chief tried to put the brakes on it, said gender had nothing to do with motive, but that didn't matter. In the age of online outrage, the correction always arrives after the damage is done. And the damage, it metastasized. Because grief, when left untreated, turns to anger. And on the internet, anger is monetized. They didn't want her story, they wanted her identity. Wanted to twist it into a warning, as if trauma looks the same on everyone. But if they'd taken a real look at Natalie, they would have seen something else entirely. She'd been cutting herself for months. Not for attention, not for drama, but because the pain made more sense than silence. Police found old wounds on her arms and her legs. Evidence of a girl trying to bleed something out of herself that she didn't have words for. She wrote about it too, in journals and messages. The hate, the loneliness, the hunger for death. She didn't want to be famous. She wanted to disappear. But first, she wanted others to hurt the way she did. Natalie Rupnow wasn't a symbol. She was a sick kid with untreated wounds and dangerous access. And what followed was a feeding frenzy. The kind that doesn't wait for facts. It just needs a spark. The trans panic wasn't an accident. It was the script. Rolled out on cue by the same voices who never want to talk about guns or grooming or grief. They just want a new target. But this time, the target was a ghost. and behind her, a trail of real bodies. So what was this really? A school shooting? Sure. But also something older, deeper, networked. Natalie Rupnow was a teenager with trauma, untreated and unresolved. Her father was negligent, parenting by default instead of design. Two grown men fed her darkness and called it love. The internet gave them all a place to meet. The Columbiner subculture isn't new, it just evolves. It hides on Discord servers, behind Twitter locks, in blogs written like manifestos, and memes posted like prayers. They share screen caps like scripture. They don't see Eric Harris as a killer, they see him as a prophet. They romanticize death, and sometimes they act. Natalie was the one who pulled the trigger, but she didn't load that chamber alone. 2 people are dead, 6 injured, a father in court, a teenager in a coffin, 2 men under surveillance or behind bars, and out there, dozens more, watching, whispering, waiting. They don't call it radicalization, they call it the aesthetic. They say it's all just jokes, but there's nothing funny about funerals. We keep talking about school resource officers and metal detectors, but the real danger, it's already inside. Not in backpacks, but in browsers. Not in lunchrooms, but in laptops. And until we treat this for what it is, a networked ecosystem of extremism, will keep burying children and prosecuting parents. Thank you for listening. Not everything I write ends up on YouTube. If you're looking for the full archive of 25 years worth of crime coverage, analysis, and commentary, you can find it all at realcrime.net. And if you want to support the work and help keep the lights on, head over to patreon.com/Trench Reynolds. Every dollar helps fight the silence. And lastly, I know you're sharp. I'm not here to insult your intelligence with some dime store sales pitch. But if you've got something out of this, if the story stuck with you, please do me a favor. Like it, share it, leave a comment, subscribe. It helps more than you think. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your safes locked. I'm Trench Reynolds, and I write crime.